Well, Alf, it's finally happened. Exactly what we envisioned in 1990 when we were kids. And we were like, man, wouldn't it be great if we had avenues to be able to buy, sell, trade? Grading, not really a thing in 1990 at all. And now look at where we are today. We're going to talk specifically about football cards. This is a card that I could only dream of back in time when I was a kid. These were probably $50, $60 ungraded raw at my local card shop. Of course, Thurman Thomas leading the Bills to multiple Super Bowls with Jim Kelly. 89 score will always hold a special place in my heart. But now, man, there's a variety of different avenues. We're going to talk about them today. Before I dive in, huge thanks to today's video sponsor, Pristine Auction. Man, if you want all the sports cards, non-sports cards, pop culture, sports memorabilia, I've got, where is it? Which side? The Pele jersey over here. They've got all the good stuff. Up here, you can't really see it, but I've got a Back to the Future hoverboard that's signed by all the main cast members. It has all the stuff, and they run daily auctions, weekly auctions, elite monthly auctions, 10-minute auctions. They have live selling going on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, and you get $25 off your first buy with the SCD code. Make sure you use SCD promo code for $25 off your first buy over at Pristine. Also, if you've never graded with PSA or you've got friends that have never graded with PSA, it's not getting any cheaper. Take $25 off your first submission over there with the SCD25 promo code. Just a one card minimum to try out PSA. SCD25 code to save some money. Before I go further, I also want to clarify too, when we're talking about flipping football cards, we're talking about speculating on players. These are short-term, relatively short-term buys and sells. I would say probably somewhere within 12 months of buying the card, possibly grading it. I think that's a big part of what we're talking about today. It's buying raw, grading, and selling. I say an SGC really being the most common grading companies, the ones that do the most sports cards. They're going to be the ones that really see a lot of this action. BGS as well for some instances. But again, not really talking about long-term holds necessarily, really just talking about getting in and getting out and the kind of the opportunities that are there for you. I think a lot of people talk about this and they think of it one way, and it's simply, which quarterbacks are you speculating on that are going to be amazing this coming season? Whether that's a rookie or maybe it's a vet, maybe it's a Jared Goff just getting over the hump finally. Maybe it's a Sam Darnold who's got a new home and looking for a ring. Is it going to be Sam Darnold that does it? Is Baker Mayfield going to win one in Tampa Bay this year? No, of course he's not. He's in the same division as the Saints, and we're coming. We're coming. But that's really what a lot of this is. You know, it's a lot of people that think of it, oh, flipping football cards, it's quarterbacks. But there's a lot more to it than that. I want to showcase a couple of things that I've seen and what maybe the average hobbyist, it's not even really on their radar. First off, last year, I did a lot of buying and selling the Bowman U, the college quarterbacks, buying and flipping kind of leading up to the draft, and that was the Drake Mays and the Bo Nixes of the world. I also bought and sold Jackson Dart, and Carson Beck actually was one that was really hot just about a year ago. Carson Beck in particular, I did well on. He had one card, but it was a Leaf Thanksgiving numbered out of 21 auto card. And to be clear, I was buying autos for all these guys. Buying them, grading them out, selling them. So I graded it with SGC. I bought the card for about $95. I believe it was in April of last year, so about a year ago, and sold it in June for $210 or something. I netted out like $185, so about doubled my money on the card approximately. I did a lot. Jackson Dart, so funny. Jackson Dart goes in the first round to the Giants. His autograph cards, Wild Card is such an underrated company. Now this is I have kind of a weird take on when we talk about unlicensed. So for me, I don't know what it is about Topps Chrome, the unlicensed stuff. I think it's just because they're going to have the license next year. And so just the idea of buying unlicensed Topps Chrome stuff that's a lot more expensive, frankly, than a lot of this stuff. You know, I'm just like, I'm not going to buy a $500 box of unlicensed Topps Chrome. But Wild Card, it's unlicensed, but man, they've got some really great looking cards. Jackson Dart autos going back a year ago, I was buying them at $20, $25, maybe $30. Grading them out and flipping them, sometimes for 60, 70, 80, as high as $100. I haven't looked to see what they are now, but I just thought those are inexpensive plays to be able to just kind of buy in, grade it out, and see what happens with it. And so it's not necessarily true that you have to buy in on a very speculative quarterback, you know, a Jordan Love. Jordan Love was one that was really hot a year ago as well. You know, people really going heavy into Jordan Love stuff. And we've heard of CJ Stroud, and then Jaden Daniels sales are huge right now. And it's risky, especially a guy like Jaden Daniels. I like the Commanders. I think that they're going to have another good season. But Jaden Daniels coming off of a really hot season, the same way that CJ Stroud did the previous year. And it's just expectations are really high. Like he's got to go back to the NFC Championship game, have another amazing season. And it's just not how the NFL typically works. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jaden Daniels cards do here. But I think that's something that's good to bring up is there's a lot of action on the college side. And now we've got, of course, the Panini Tops lawsuits are going on. Panini signing all these college players. You can speculate on college players. Arch Manning's already had cards for a couple of years. You can speculate on a lot of these quarterbacks years before they ever get to the NFL. It used to be that you'd have like Panini Draft Picks comes out, and then you have regular Prism comes out, and then the Panini Draft Picks is garbage, and it's, you know, the prices go way down. Well, now there's years of Bowman U, type products. You've got years of this stuff where there's autos coming out, first Bowmans and different things for these quarterbacks, to where there can be some fun speculation there to where, hey, if a quarterback's really popping off in college, maybe he's considered a number one pick or top 5 pick. Those college cards, we've seen it. We saw it with Bo Nix. A great example, it's not football, but Caitlin Clark stuff. All of her Iowa first Bowman. I understand it's a different sport and everything, but those weren't pro unis. And that stuff still holds up today. CJ Stroud, even though he's got a bunch of pro uniform cards, he still sells a lot of that Ohio State, the auto stuff. It's not trash. It still sells pretty well. That's something to keep in mind, I think, for football fans and football card collectors, is you can start having some fun speculating kind of the way that baseball prospectors do, with guys that are in the minor leagues, and trying to get up into the majors. It's kind of similar to where it's crossed over to football a little bit, and it's been fun. Another part of the hobby I know a lot of people are focused in on, and there's so much attention around 90s inserts and 90s parallels and the numbered cards and that sort of a thing. So much action on the basketball side, but we have seen huge sales for Dan Marino Essential Credentials and PMGs for Barry Sanders and that sort of thing. And even on the Panini side, Prism Black Finite 1/1s. My God, I think Chris Hoge put up there just a couple of days ago the Drake May. Who were the two players? I believe it was Drake May and Caleb Williams. Of course, last year's number 1 and number 3 picks. They each sold the Black Finite 1/1. So really kind of their tippity top cards there. Prism Black Finite 1/1s sold for something like $105,000 and $110,000. Just huge money for these new quarterbacks. And so on the Panini side, you're seeing people that are going after the golds out of 10, the gold vinyls out of 5, the Black Finites, and for veteran players as well. Those are starting to go for pretty big money. The other part of that are the 90s inserts for Barry Sanders and for Jerry Rice and for Brett Favre and some of these great 90s players, Emmitt Smith. A lot of these guys, they've got PMGs, they've got essential credentials, but even go down the line on that, and there's all sorts of really cool inserts and parallels that don't necessarily have to be the most rare ones. They might still be numbered, they might not be, but just really cool stuff. And people are buying those up like crazy too, just really having a fun time collecting those. But if you are a flipper, because people are collecting those, you can find a nice copy, you can grade it up through PSA, and then you can try to sell it to a lot of collectors out there that are looking for cool Barry Sanders cards. I had one going back last week on the hottest cards on eBay, where we're showcasing the PSA Vault cards in partnership with PSA on eBay. And there was a PSA 8. It was a Barry Sanders. I can't remember exactly the card that it was. Just amazing looking card. It was a PSA 8. It was on there for like $50, buy it now. And somebody watching that video picked it up. They're like, hey man, you're right. That is an awesome card, and ended up buying it from seeing that video. So there's a lot of collectors out there, and the nostalgia is flowing for a lot of the 90s players that I grew up with watching, kind of the heroes from back in the day. Barry Sanders he's just on fire. I think a big reason for that is we've seen how many running backs come after Barry Sanders, and just none of them quite like Barry. There's guys that are similar. We just had Ashton Genty out of Boise State, just went to the Raiders. There's a lot of comparisons. Is he going to be shifty like a Barry Sanders? But we still have not seen a guy quite like Barry Sanders come out, which again brings me to my next point, is a lot of people are collecting and also buying, selling, flipping. People are spending a lot of money, not just on quarterbacks. Go take a look at what Justin Jefferson cards cost. They're not inexpensive. And you've got running backs as well that are going to be expensive. You've got Christian McCaffrey card that's got some big cards. I'm pretty certain that Ashton Genty, when he's got some of his stuff come out, I'm sure it's going to be pricey. Some of these new superstars coming out, whether that's wide receivers, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, my God, Travis Hunter's going to have some expensive cards. But Brian Thomas Jr., his teammate there in Jacksonville, the other receiver, he had his Black Finite 1/1 sold for like $16,000 like 6 months ago. And this is a rookie receiver. Had a good year in Jacksonville, but 16 grand for the Black Finite 1 of 1. So, it's not just necessarily quarterbacks. Football card collecting / flipping, being able to buy, sell, and also buy ungraded, find some nice copies, grade them out, and sell. And again, a lot of it's going to come down to, you send the 20 card submission in, you might have 3 or 4 of the PSA 10s that are paying for all of it, and that's where you're really making a lot of your money. But there's a lot of opportunity that we've seen, not just in people kind of trying to buy into that next quarterback, Jordan Love having another great season, or CJ Stroud, breaking out again, have it continuing on, Jaden Daniels. There's so much else going on when it comes to flipping football cards, and just the overall interest in the league. It's growing globally. I think that is a really underrated piece of football. I always hear, basketball is global. Basketball is global. You can pick up a basketball. You can pick up a ball and play basketball anywhere. Well, guess what? You can also make anything a football and turn it into a football game anywhere in the world too. That we just saw in the NFL draft, actually, they were showing all their international fans that were making draft picks. They had, like, for a New Orleans Saints pick, they had a girl that was out there in Paris, France, that was making the pick. Don't underestimate the NFL and their ability to expand out to a global fan base. That is something that will be coming, I think. I would not put it past the NFL. They have the highest revenues of all the major sports, and I think that they know what they're doing with a very popular product. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope that you have an amazing week ahead. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.